Tell me the characteristics, if you will, of governing boards.
Well, there are several things that about boards that have been of interest to me, and I think that sometimes boards don't really sometimes remember. First of all, a board only has authority when it meets. It's dormant 99.9% of the time. I'm reminded, I live in Denver, Colorado, and we've built a new football stadium there, $400 million football stadium. And I drive by it every day. And what amazes me is every time I drive by it, I think of boards because it sits dormant 99.9% of the time. And it's also kind of like a referee at a football game. When the whistle blows, they have authority. When they don't, when the game's in, the authority's over. So when the meeting ends, the board has no authority. Boards are also the highest level you can go and still be inside an organization. No one member of the board has authority, and this is kind of an issue sometimes boards don't really see, that the board speaks as a unit. It speaks with one voice, and the board has the authority. No individual has authority unless they've been specifically delegated for a certain activity. The boards need to structure themselves to use their time efficiently. That's all they've got is time, and they have to use it effectively to strategically lead the hospital. In the United States right now, there are approximately 5.5 million boards in the U.S., one for every 45 citizens. There are 7,500 healthcare and hospital system boards, including subsidiary organizations. So there's 120,000 people sitting on these healthcare boards, and that's a lot of service, a lot of service on these boards.
It sure is. Review, if you will, the different kinds of boards that there are.
Well, in a nutshell, most of the boards in the United States, like most of the VHA boards, are tax-exempt 501c3 organizations. There are also, there's over 3,000 of those. Those are the main boards. But then there are also system boards, whether it's a large profit or a large non-profit, like the Catholic systems, Intermountain and Salt Lake, these types of systems. And then they have unit boards. And sometimes there's a little bit of problem of what the responsibility is of the system board versus the unit board, the individual hospital board, and that needs to be clarified. The other boards include academic medical center boards, and sometimes those are very challenging. But the most challenging, I think, and some of the difficulties come within district boards. There are the political. Yes, the district board runs for election. The members run for election. Many of the hospitals in the United States are converting from district to 501c3. At the rate, some of the latest numbers I've seen, at the rate they're converting in 10 years, there won't be any more district hospitals because of the problems with the continuation and the stability of the boards, and being able to do some other things, contract with certain types of physicians and joint ventures that are difficult with a district hospital.
So what we think of now is some of the biggest hospitals, the county hospitals, that sort of thing, or the big city hospitals, they're just going away.
Yeah, but the county hospitals aren't necessary. The county hospitals are still semi-political. The county commissioners appoint a hospital governing board, but they can still be appointed on the basis of their ability to select a board member under certain criteria that we will talk about. But the district hospital still is difficult, still is challenging.
Why is being on a hospital board such a complex job?
Well, I have in the handouts that most of you should have, on page 6 in the handout, I have seen a simplified example of in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and even really early 80s. The hospital at that time was a very simple organization. It had very positive relationships, as you see. The negative relationships were very few, and it's almost like you remember the television program Leave It to Beaver, and Ward Cleaver would come home at 5 o'clock, not 5:02. He would come home at 5 o'clock, and his wife, June Cleaver, would be in high heels and a pearl necklace and a skirt and a dress and an apron fixing dinner. And it was a very simple life. The biggest problem that they had in those days was maybe whether the beaver should camp out overnight on a weekend with his neighbor in a tent. I mean, that was the biggest discussion that took place. The same thing was true in a way with hospitals. There was cost reimbursement. The boards didn't really hurt the hospital. They didn't necessarily help the hospital. They were kind of just there.
These were well-meaning charities, ran them. and
Right.
nobody questioned anything.
And it was, like I said, it was cost reimbursement. You spend $1, you get $1. And that's how some of the investor-owned companies were started. I know one of the companies in Nashville, a guy's in the lumber business. He says, I'm in the wrong business. If I spend $1, I get $1. I often joke, I used in those days call my staff in as a hospital CEO, and I would say, staff, you simply must be less efficient. And physicians would want equipment, and they would say, can I have this piece of equipment? And I would turn to them and say, will you misuse this? And they would say yes. And I'd say, great, you got it. So those were the great days. Now, compare that, looking on page 7, the next page with your handout, with how complex the hospital organizations are now. If you look at that, you see all of the negative affiliations. There's only 1 or 2 positives, and that's a corporate board to the regular hospital board. But it's becoming very complex. And when you have that kind of a complex environment, the board function becomes a lot more difficult. You need a lot more talented people, you need more dedicated people, and you need people that have continuing education.